Good morning and welcome. It is Sunday, July 25th. My name is Beth Chronister and I serve here as the assistant minister. And this morning we have a guest speaker, Matt Meyer, and he has actually spoken from our pulpit before, and he is going to be coming to us virtually. So there's going to be different pieces of music. He's an incredible drummer and song leader, coming through the screen on video today, as well as the sermon. So it's going to be one of those interesting new things that we're trying, as in every week we're trying something interesting and new in this period of time of the interesting in-between. So welcome this morning to the interesting in-between, between here and somewhere, right? That is life right now. A few announcements briefly is that following service, there will be no sermon discussion, but there will be a space set aside for people who are visiting and newcomers to learn more about UUC and to connect also with UUC members. And that next week is going to be another full community Sunday. And so that means that we're making space in our building for people who are vaccinated and unvaccinated, meaning that also families with children can come and be part of the Sunday morning. And so next week, please wear your masks. And this morning, masks are optional because everyone in the building has been checked for their vaccination status. But we ask you for any singing, please put the mask back on. Like I said, welcome to the interesting in-between. It is good to be here together. And let us start our worship. Our call to worship this morning is a call and response. It's a repeat after me. And so I will say the words and invite you to repeat them. It is. It is good. It is good to be. It is good to be together. It is good to be together with you. Welcome to University Unitarian Church. Welcome to worship this morning. Now would you please rise and body your spirit. We will be singing with Matt leading the hymn Blessed Motion. The lyrics will be on the screen underneath the video.
Our opening hymn this morning is Blessed Motion by Annie Zylstra. She wrote this song when she was inspired by the words of Martin Prechtel, who spoke of what it was like to have survived an earthquake in Guatemala. Prechtel spoke of what it was like to have the ground beneath his feet, that which had always been so permanent and so solid, suddenly rise up in motion. He said that the myth of believing in solid ground is a myth believed by those that live on the earth, rather than as a part of it. I know for the last year now, I've been constantly searching for some sense of grounding, even as it feels like the ground beneath my feet is constantly shifting. If that's been true for you as well, I invite you into the spirit of this song, to be in motion together with the earth. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves on. That low part two more times. Perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground. I saw the ocean in motion, the wind, steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground. Until I saw the earth in motion, in the wind of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground. Until I saw the earth in motion, steady change, and the ever-rolling solid ground, until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion.
And I invite you now to join in singing our doxology. Once more, please stand as you stand in body or in spirit to sing our doxology together. And would you join me now in the spirit of prayer and of meditation, taking a moment just to land through breath and through quiet into this blessed moment. May the beating of our separate hearts call us back toward one another, to join our bodies in syncopated rhythm with the beating hearts, broken and whole, of religious community. May the music of our souls call us onto this dance floor of life, lifting our arms in praise and thanks, twirling, dipping, stomping, shaking wild before the great unknown of each and every day. And may the rhythm of our ancestors, the ones who marched for justice, the ones who tilled the soil, the ones who created, the ones who made a way out of no way. May these rhythms drum us out of our stuck places so that we may add our own cadence, rhythm, meter, and breath and move in harmony with that deep music that underlies it all. To these words, I invite you to add the silent prayers and meditations of your own hearts. Blessed be, and amen.
Good morning. I'm Paula Nurias.
And I'm Jerry Gilmore. Paula, what comes to mind when you think of UUC?
I think of it as a very special community. It's become, over the years, for us and our family, a spiritual congregational home.
Yes, me too.
When we first started considering and attending UUC, it was primarily, like for so many of us, about offering our then young daughter a non-doctrinaire religious education and a spiritual perspective from both adults and other youth.
And then along the way, we found an intellectually and spiritually challenging environment for us, and with many, many kind, thoughtful, and astute congregants.
We soon became engaged in spirited coffee hour conversations, with the thought-provoking sermons, the uplifting music. The congregation, alongside the staff, have creatively generated over the years such a range of opportunities for engagement and for leadership.
And Paul and I have been honored to serve on many different roles and service to this wonderful community, which have brought us new friends and forged a shared sense of congregational connection.
These are days of remarkable challenge for us all, and questions of resources are more salient than ever.
Now we even more recognize the importance of all of us doing our part in keeping the church healthy and vibrant, as we share ourselves and our monetary resources with glad hearts.
We have something pretty special here with this community and our congregational home. It needs us as much as we need it to help support the ongoing work of social justice, to supporting each other in spiritual covenant, and in supporting our surrounding community. So in closing, Jerry,
our warmest wishes for good health and good cheer.
We so look forward to being in person with you all again. So please join us in saying the words that we say each Sunday together as we make our offering. This church is a community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. When we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. Thank you.
These words by Beth Strano. There's no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and have caused wounds. This space seeks to turn down the volume of the outside world and amplify the voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be ours together, and we will work on it side by side. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. Roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. I begin just about every day with a to-do list. Usually an overly ambitious to-do list, scribbled on a post-it note in the corner of my desk. One of the things that often goes unchecked at the end of the day is making time for writing. It's important to me to be a writer, and so every day I put it on the list, and every day I collect quotes or prompts or story ideas so that when I do write, I'll have a lot of inspiration for it. It's so important to me that every day I work on other tasks and I finish other pressing commitments so that eventually I'll have lots of time to write. It's so important to me that surely one of these days I will begin writing. Author Anne Lamott talks about this, about how hard it is to just sit down every day and put your butt in the chair and write. She says, "The discouraging voices will hound you. This is all piffle, they will say. And they might be right. What you are doing may just be practice. But this is how you're going to get better." Some of the best writing advice I ever got was from a workshop teacher once who said, "For now, take a few minutes and, well, don't write, but just write what you would write if you were going to write." I sometimes feel like in all the years since I've gotten that advice, I haven't written anything since. But I have written a lot about what I would write if I did write. You might call this the practice of practicing, learning how to practice. The problem with getting started is that the finished product we might imagine for ourselves can feel so far from our starting place. The person we would like ourselves to be so often can feel too far from the person we see in the mirror every day. The world as we would like it to be can feel impossibly far from what we read in the headlines each day. The demons of perfectionism stand in the way of good writing, just as they stand in the way of creative risk-taking in general. And this is unfortunate because we know that creating a life for ourselves that doesn't yet exist requires some creative risk-taking. Particularly in uncertain and anxious times like these, just showing up as your best self every day requires setting aside those discouraging voices that hound us. And we know that even imagining a world of true justice and equity and compassion, just imagining that world can feel so far from what we read in the headlines. Well, it means setting aside those voices that say your efforts are just piffle. When the demons of perfectionism show up like this, I try to practice the practicing of showing up for myself and for others. Musicians know something about practicing. One of the requirements for all students at Berklee College of Music in Boston, where I attended years ago, is 4 semesters of ear training. Ear training is learning to sight sing music just by reading the notes on a page, and learning to write down music, to transcribe it just by listening to a song. Now, when I began school, I certainly knew that there were people out there in the world capable of this kind of magic, but it seemed like some kind of Harry Potter nonsense to me. Like, you may as well ask me to walk into the classroom and turn my desk into a toad using a conductor's baton. I remember the first day of class, and there was a sort of nervous silence among most of us students. Silence except for one student who was quite vocal in his nervousness. There was one student who spoke up and interrupted the teacher in the first few minutes on the very first day. He wanted to make it clear that he was worried the class was going to be too advanced for him, and that he didn't know a single thing about ear training. The teacher kindly paused his introductions to respond. He explained that we'd all taken entrance exams and he was sure we'd been placed in the appropriate class. The teacher tried to continue but was interrupted again. "Well, is this the very lowest class though?" the man asked. "Because I need to be in like the very lowest class." Now, you could tell the teacher looked around the room a little sheepish, not really wanting to answer that yes, we were in fact a class of the most basic students. He said, "Well, it is ear training 101, so it is the lowest. There is, I guess," he said, "a class for people that have previously failed the 101, but you all are just about the lowest." Now, at this point, some of the other students in the room giggled a little bit at this man's anxieties. I was actually kind of glad to hear, though, that someone was questioning what felt like the absurd notion that sight singing even could be taught. I don't know what happened next for that other student, but I do know that he never came back to our class again. Not because anything we did on that first day was in fact too hard for him, but I think he just lacked a belief that improvement was even possible. I kept going, thinking that if generations of students have done this before me, it must be possible somehow, and I made a commitment to at least practice the material. I've always remembered this other student, though, who gave up before he'd started. It's not just that he didn't try to become a great master at ear training, it's that he didn't even try the practicing of it, which always struck me as the real loss. When the discouraging voices hound me, I sometimes think of him, and I remind myself that maybe the work I'm doing is just practice for now, but practice is how I'm going to get better. This pandemic arrived over a year ago now, and it has been a difficult year, to be sure. A time of the ground beneath us shifting constantly. I imagine that the next year, like the last one, will be a time of learning and relearning new ways of being together, of organizing our days differently all over again, of organizing our people differently all over again. This is a time of adaptation, which means it is also a time of imagination, of imagining new ways of being together, new ways of organizing our days and our people and our society, for that matter. This is a time calling on those in power, which in some ways is all of us, to learn some new roles, to learn some new skills for our communities. Particularly for white folks, I think this is a time to learn to play some new roles in our community, a time to practice listening in deeper ways we haven't always done so well, a time for practicing hard conversations we haven't yet practiced enough, a time for listening to the voices that fight to be heard elsewhere and amplifying those voices, amplifying those demands for justice. A time for giving away resources we may have inherited that were never ours, resources given to us by segregation and inequality. This is a time for imagining something new and practicing it into being. I know I won't all of a sudden do all of these things, but I will practice the doing of them. Musicians know as well as anyone that muscle memory is very real. We know that consistent practicing changes the very structure of our brains, rewiring our circuitry, forging new connections and new possibilities. No one is born a musician. Musicians are just the ones that learned how to practice. They say that practice makes perfect, but that's not true. Practice doesn't make music perfect, but it does make music possible. And so let us practice the practicing together, side by side. Let's practice showing up for ourselves and others to build that world of justice and equity and compassion. Practice won't make the world perfect, but it makes a better world possible. Someday, I want to be a true expert in justice and compassion. Someday I want to be masterful at amplifying the voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. Someday I want to be part of transforming our so-called justice system that has hurt so many so deeply. Someday I want to be part of transforming an education system that fast-tracks some to college and others to prison. Someday I want to be part of transforming an energy sector that's been working overtime to overheat our planet. These are daunting tasks, to be sure. On most days, learning to transcribe a symphony seems more manageable than any one of them. But that's okay. Because for now, I don't have to do all of those things. I just need to practice doing what I would do if I were doing them. So, dear ones, don't promise to be your best self today. Just be the person you would be if you were practicing being your best self. Don't commit to rebuilding a new world in the image of love this week. Just practice doing what you would do if you had committed to such things. May we practice together, working side by side, for justice, for equity, for compassion. May it be so, and may we make it so. This song was written by Sarah Lynch Thomason, a climate justice activist in Appalachia. This song, like I think the best music, and perhaps like the best faith communities, calls us not to turn away from the crises of our times, but to face the hard and difficult things together and to move forward together. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know. I will wade through the water when they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will walk through the fires when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. Dear ones, don't promise to be your best self today. Just be the person you would be if you were practicing being your best self. Don't try to rebuild a new world in the image of love this week. Just practice doing what you would do if you had committed to such beautiful things. There is no such thing as safe space. We all carry scars and have caused wounds. But may we practice together, working side by side. Go in peace, go in love, and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to others.